what are the recent big things that have happened in the Web3 space and where do you think we're headed?
The recent big thing is that we've got ETFs approved on Bitcoin and now on Ethereum. Big people in the investment community, including Larry Fink, said that Bitcoin is a scam and Bitcoin is garbage. He actually went onto live TV several times and said, I made a mistake.
Recently, we have seen the Japan cash and carry trade risk. Do you think it's settled or there is still the risk is hanging?
Japan is the most scary thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. The Bank of Japan owns 80% of all ETFs, 10% of the entire stock market, and over 50% of all treasury bills in Japan.
Ran, you have covered a lot of shows about Web3 and AI. How are they related to each other?
AI doesn't work without crypto because
there has been a massive experiment. We call it the big Web3 experiment, you can say it, in El Salvador. Which one of these do you think is compelling and are you most excited for in the future? Hi guys, welcome to Future and AI again, and today we have a very special guest. Usually we cover a lot of conversation around AI, but this one is more about the Web3 world. This world has seen a lot of dramatic change. There's a lot of money made, there's a lot of money lost. There are a lot of people who claim this is hype. There are a lot who swear by the truth of it. Today we have a messiah of the Web3 world by the name Neuner. He runs world's #1 live YouTube channel where he covers a lot of topics in the world of Web3, crypto, finance, and even AI. He has done interviews with a lot of influential people in the Web3 world and a bunch of billionaires. So I'm super excited to talk to you, Ran. I really appreciate the fact that you have gotten here with me and Sai, who's going to be the co-host for the day. I call him the mascot of the Indian Web3 scene. That's how I like to think of him, but he is everywhere across the globe. He's traveled so many countries talking about his love for crypto. He believes strongly in it and he's almost converted me into a crypto fan myself. He's also the global representative for Layer 1 called Lithium. And I'm glad that I get to have him as a co-host today because he comes very deep from the Web3 world and I hope I'll see a wonderful conversation between the three of us today.
Okay, let's go, sir.
Cool. So, Ran, I think you've been in the space for a very long time and I thought you'll be the best person to get a sense of what are the recent big things that have happened in the Web3 space and where do you think we're headed?
Well, I mean, I think to look at it like the recent big things, it's like it's taking a snapshot at a point of time. And I think you kind of got to go through the journey of where we've come from, you know, to understand the context of what the recent big things are. If I were to put it down to like the recent big thing, I mean, the recent big thing is that we've got ETFs approved on Bitcoin and now on Ethereum. Okay, so, but why is that so important? Because, you know, I've been here since 2014. Bitcoin's been here since, I mean, arguably you could say 2010 or whenever you want to say the first block was mined or when the white paper was written or whenever. And for years, we've been fighting for two things. One is we've been fighting against the system. We've always had resistance from the system. We were never accepted by the investment community. Big people in the investment community, including Larry Fink, said that Bitcoin is a scam and Bitcoin is garbage and whatever else. And we've always had this dream in crypto of institutional adoption. We've always said that, you know, for us, crypto will have made it when institutions actually see it as a real investment instrument. And you could pretty much say that, you know, 2024 was the year where the investment world actually accepted Bitcoin and ETH as institutional assets. Now, there's a big reason why I say Bitcoin and ETH, because Bitcoin is one concept. It's a digital store of value, and you know people call it digital gold, for example, and for institutions to accept that as an asset class was one thing. What we didn't expect, though, is that the institutions would also accept Ethereum, which is effectively a new decentralized internet, which allows for the transfer of not only data, but also the transfer of value at the same time. And they've also accepted that as an asset class. Now, Bitcoin is a one-horse race. There's only one Bitcoin. There will only ever be one Bitcoin. It's a digital store of value. It's a one-horse race. Ethereum is not a one-horse race. Ethereum is all about multiple altcoins, multiple similar technologies, etc., etc. So by accepting Bitcoin, they accepted the fact that there's gold and there's digital gold as an investment instrument. But by accepting Ethereum, what they've accepted is that there are going to be thousands of different alternative coins and platforms to be able to invest in. And so everyone's celebrating the fact that there is a digital, that, they accepted the Bitcoin ETF, and the Bitcoin ETF has got a $20 billion inflow since it's launched, and it was the most successful ETF. But I don't think that what people realized was when they accepted Bitcoin, they only accepted one of a kind. When they accepted Ethereum, they basically said, there's all these altcoins and all these platforms that allow for the launch of new altcoins. And by accepting the one ETF around Ethereum, what we've done is we've actually given a green light for this entire industry, which is going to be made up of thousands and thousands and maybe even millions of altcoins to actually get acceptance by the investment community. And so I think that, you want to talk about the biggest thing that have happened? The biggest thing that has happened is the stamp was the ETF, but the ETF is not the big thing that happened. It was the journey of taking multiple, very skeptical people in the investment world and converting them one by one until eventually not only do they become converted, but they actually became proponents. I remind you, Larry Fink, a few years ago, who's head of the biggest investment corporation in the world, BlackRock, he said that Bitcoin was garbage, it was a scam, etc., etc. He actually went onto live TV several times and said, "I made a mistake."
Wow.
He literally said, "I made a mistake, and I made the mistake." And even said, "I was late, but I've come around to saying that this Bitcoin thing is actually a real thing." And today, he's probably one of the biggest proponents for Bitcoin. So that's probably the biggest thing that's happened, is that we've managed to take skeptics in the investment world and turn them into proponents, allies.
Yeah. Would you call the ETFs of Bitcoin and Ethereum as the biggest win for the entire Web3 world till date in the last 15 years?
Well, yes, I think so. I think that, but the fact that the technology works despite all the different legal attacks, despite all the different hacker attacks, despite all the different attacks in the last 10 years, the fact that the technology is still here and it's not broken, I think that's the success here.
Yeah, and some failures also, big failures, some experiments didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, there have been failures, but the failures haven't been at a protocol level. If you look at all the failures around Bitcoin, and there have been many, it's not the chain or the protocol that broke. It's bad operators and bad usage of the protocols that broke. Probably you could say the biggest failure in crypto was the collapse of FTX. Now, that's not a representation on the fact that Bitcoin is a bad asset. That's a representation on the fact that a dishonest person created a dishonest business, which, by the way, sold us. You could liken it with gold to say, if there was one gold dealer who scammed his customers out of gold, that doesn't mean that gold is broken. It just means that there's one gold dealer that is using the technology for bad, not for good.
Fair enough.
So, Ran, my question is, like, Bitcoin ETF was successful, but ETH ETF has not performed compared to what Bitcoin has performed. And what is the reason behind it? And are you still positive about it?
Yeah, I think, look, we're in a marathon, and we've run 200 meters or 300 meters, and you're saying to me, hey, you're not doing very well in the race. I'm like, bro, we still have 40 kilometers left. We still have a long way to go here. You can't judge a race by the first 2 weeks. I think the ETH ETF has been a relative success. Bear in mind that the ETH ETF caught us by surprise, where the Bitcoin ETF didn't. No one expected the ETH ETF to get approved. Sorry, let me kill that. No one expected the ETH ETF to get approved. We all thought the Bitcoin ETF was going to get approved. We had a long time to approve it, and to prepare for it, and to create advertisements, and to speak to our clients on the golf course. And that didn't happen with ETH. ETH was a surprise. We all got caught by surprise, probably due to political pressure.
Okay. And there has been a lot of ETH sell-offs these days by Jump Capital, and one is called Block Tower. And they sold probably approximately 28 million worth of ETH recently. So why is this happening? And also the burn rate on ETH is also going down.
Look, to be honest, I don't really care about who's selling in the short term. Ultimately, when I look at a technology, I'm looking at, does the technology work? Does it make an impact on the world? Is it progressing? Are there lots of smart people working on it? Is there a lot of venture capital money being invested in it? And the answer to all of those is yes. All the rest is short-term noise. Today, Jump Capital may or may not be closing down its crypto division. There may or may not be an overhang in the ETH, which is the equivalent of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, but for Ethereum, which, by the way, I'm looking at the stats here, has already sold 25% of all their overhang. And by the way, yesterday was the first day that there wasn't a negative outflow out of that ETH. So, what you're talking to me about like one day versus the next. I'm not in this for one day versus the next. I got into ETH at $6. Okay, now I got into ETH at $6 just after the ICO. And my view remains that it's still a great investment. Now, remember, between 6 and 8 and 6 and 9 and 6 and 12, there were many times when people were selling and people were buying, and block out that short-term noise and focus on the big picture. Is there going to be a decentralized internet of value built? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, how much of it is going to be built on ETH? And how much of it is going to be built on other platforms like Solana or Bitcoin or whatever else? And that's how you make an investment decision. When people talk about the short-term noise of like this one's buying and this one's selling and there's a slight overhang here and there's a slight overhang there. If I would have applied that investment thesis since whenever I started investing in 2017 or 2016, to be honest, I think I would have sold my ETH 1,000 times. And the reality is that I sold half my ETH and I put it into Solana, but other than that, I haven't sold much ETH.
Right.
There is one question we had around the relationship between the potential or possible recession in the US, the rate of unemployment going up. How do these affect the ETF markets and Web3 in general? What do you think?
Remember that crypto is a market of value. What are we doing? We are creating value that we can trade at the speed of data. That's really what crypto is. The big evolution around crypto. The big evolution around the internet was the ability to send data from one place to another. That's really the evolution around the internet, right? And we then said, okay, we can send this data, we can send catalogs and we can send pictures and whatever else. Crypto is the ability to create and send money as quickly as we could send data over data packets. That's really what crypto is. So in order for crypto prices to go up, what you need more liquidity. The more liquidity, the more money there is in circulation, the more people tend to spend on things. So take gold, take shares, etc., etc. The more money there is in circulation, and we learned this when in the times of COVID, the more money governments printed, the more people just invested into markets, thereby pushing markets up. You mentioned the word recession and all those things. What would the government do to get us out of recession? Well, they stimulate the economy, right? How would they stimulate the economy? They would print more.
They print and pump in more. That's how it's usually going to be, leading to more inflation, I guess.
Okay, and what happened the last time that they printed and pumped more money into the economy? We got the biggest crypto bull run in history, right? So, okay, if there is a recession, I mean, I feel really bad for the businesses that have to downsize and the people that are unemployed. But I also know how the government's going to fix it, because the government doesn't have many tools. What are the tools? Print money, reduce interest rates. That's all they can do. It's not like they have anything else. It's like, you go to a doctor, you got a sore throat, it's an antibiotic. There's nothing else the doctor can give you. It can give you a spray or it can give you an antibiotic. So they're both exactly the same thing.
So you're saying the government has limited tools at their disposal. How does that affect someone like you, the decision making that you do on where to invest, where to not? Is there a concept of timing that you apply when it comes to macro events like these?
So I look at the 4-year cycle on Bitcoin. It's been a pretty accurate measurement. Bitcoin goes through a 4-year cycle. It halves every 4 years, which means the supply halves every 4 years. And then there's after that, there's about a year and a half of an upward market. And then we go down and sideways, and then we start it again. So until that thesis is proven untrue, I have to make a thesis. I have to make an assumption that thesis is true, and it has been true for every other halving. So for now, I think that we're in a sideways choppy market now, which is exactly what we expect at this point in time. In fact, we have been going sideways for about 150 days. We should go for about 200 to 250 days. So if everything goes according to plan, we've still got another 50 days of this shit. But after that, usually we go up quite a lot. Now, let's just correlate that to what the macro forces are telling us. I said there's probably about a 60 to 90 days of sideways movement left before we go up. 60 to 90 days from now takes us almost to the elections. Okay. Now, something could happen in the elections, which could be very pro-crypto. 60 to 90 days also takes us to rate cuts. The first rate cut will definitely happen in the next 60 to 90 days. So kind of like the charts are aligning and the charts are aligning and the fundamentals are aligning. And it just kind of feels like we just got to sit this side out. And, I'm so frustrated because I keep saying this, sell in May and go away. And specifically in the halving year, sell in May and go away. And I always find myself saying that. And then in May, I don't sell and I don't go away. And I always say, why the hell didn't I sell in May and actually go away? I should have just sold in May and actually gone away. And I don't. So now I think what I'm going to do, I don't have any tattoos on my body, but I think I might just put a little tattoo over here that just says sell in May and go away. Because it's a very tough time now in the markets. It's sideways and down. It's demotivating. I kind of wish I'd just taken a vacation for like 4 months and come back 1 month before the auctions.
I could possibly help you with that by making this particular frame as like this particular section as a meme and float it all between the crypto banter community and they hold you accountable. How does that sound?
Oh, it sounds good.
Yeah. No, wonderful.
Remind me to sell in May. Remind me to sell in May.
Okay, I'll give you a call next year.
Cool.
So recently we have seen the Japan cash and carry trade risk. Do you think it is settled or there is still the risk is hanging?
No ways. Japan is the most scary thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. I must be honest, I've always known about it, but I never dug into it because I always thought it was fear-mongering. But let's just understand the story of Japan. Japan was once a very good, very vibrant, very young economy. And then it wasn't. And then when it wasn't generating as much revenue, income, interest, and investment in their country. So in order to stimulate their economy, what did they do? They started printing money. And they started printing money and loaning that money at zero interest to anyone who wanted to borrow it to invest anywhere they wanted in the world. And so people went to Japan, they borrowed yen, interest-free, and they invested it in every single stock market and liquidity market in the world. Taiwan, Korea, China, USA, Europe, T-bills. How big is the trade? No one knows. People can say up to $20 trillion. Now, that's the surface level of it. The deeper level is that some people are even leveraged on this trade. So you could have $20 trillion, which is still leveraged. Now, every country turned a blind eye to Japanese yen cash and carry trade. Why? Because they said, hold on a second, it's pumping up our market. Why should we tell them to stop if it's pumping up our stock market and making us look like we're amazing? They're buying up our debt, our treasury bills, right? The only problem is that then people realized that Japan was actually a hoax. And so the Japanese market started to decline. So what did the government do? The government started to print more money and buy up Japanese stocks and Japanese. The Bank of Japan owns 80% of all ETFs in Japan, 10% of the entire stock market, and over 50% of all treasury bills in Japan. The Bank of Japan owns them through money that they printed out of thin air. Look, Japan is a shit show. And when it unwinds, it's going to be catastrophic. So you're asking me, okay, well, if that's your thesis, well, then, how are you not, running for cover? Because governments have always had the habit of being able to kick the can down the road. And sometimes they can kick the can down the road for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, etc., etc. Governments can decide to kick cans down roads for many, many, many years. Tell you one thing. when the trade does unwind, you want to be in a safe asset. And I think that people are then going to go into gold. And I think that they're also going to go into gold 2.0, because I think that no asset is going to be safe. When the Japanese yen cash and carry trade starts to unwind and people start selling off, they're going to start selling off stock markets, American T-bills, which is going to mean that the dollar is going to become unsafe. So, I mean, there's no doubt that it'll happen, because just think about this. Think about a country that was printing money as much as they wanted to whoever they wanted, and they gave it to people for free to go and invest and earn yields. Just think about how ridiculous that notion is. But it exists. The more I dug into it, the crazy, I was like, no. Like
this almost sounds like a skit at a geopolitical level.
Yeah, it's like, come on. This is not real. This can't be real. No. And the more I dig into it, the more real this thing is. This thing actually becomes. And I'm like, and no one said anything? And the answer is no, because they were propping up every single world market. And so if the US had stood against them, the US market would have dropped 20%. Better for the US just to do this and say, well, just carry on doing it. We're not going to say anything.
Yeah. Someone had to take a bullet and nobody had the guts for it, I guess. Japan didn't stop. Nobody in the US government or the corporations or people, whoever were listed, nobody had an incentive to stop doing this. And they just kicked the bucket down the street there constantly. Fair enough.
I also have to remind you what politics is about. Western politics is about 4 years or 8 years. That's it. So what you need to do is you need to kick problems down more than 4 years or 8 years down the road. That's it. That's what politics is. If there's a problem, just make sure the problem doesn't explode while you're in power. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. I guess that's one of the reasons why cycles happen in the first place of different kinds, when you just inevitably end up in the mess that you created earlier. Guess.
If you think about our lifetimes, how many big world problems have actually come to the fore in our lifetime? So one of them you could say was the 2008 housing bubble. That was like one of those problems that exploded in our lifetimes. Probably the Argentinian collapse, probably the Greek collapse, but and Venezuela maybe, but how many, there's a lot of problems. I mean, the US has a massive misalignment between short-term bank obligations and long-term treasury holdings that banks have. But do I think that'll ever come out in our lifetime? No, because the treasury and the Fed just said, look, we'll backstop it. So that's it. The problem's gone. For now, it's kicked down the road. Problem's still there. It's kicked down the road.
Absolutely.
But someday or the other, it has to burst.
Yeah, but when? As long as it doesn't burst what is Kamala Harris thinking? Kamala Harris is thinking, or Joe Biden is thinking, as long as it doesn't burst while I'm in office, it's fine. It'll burst when the next person's in office, and that's not going to be on my legacy. And that's unfortunately how things work.
Yeah. So, but Ran, US unemployment rate is also at 4.3%, and this Japan risk is still there, and a lot of money market funds. You mentioned in your recent show that money market funds are at all-time high. So why is these funds sitting there? When do you think it will come onto the market? Are they still waiting for something serious to happen, or a crash or anything like that?
So I think markets go through areas of risk on and risk off. We've been risk on for a long time. When the Nasdaq is up unprecedented, I think 50% or something, or even more, which for a Nasdaq in 18 months is ridiculous, right? That's crazy stuff. So you're going to get times where there's more money and less money on the sidelines. But in general, there's more money. Just think about this. In general, more liquidity, more money is being printed all the time. So I think to be honest, when the markets start going up again, the money from the sidelines will be sucked in. Just rest assured. The funds get FOMO, and that's exactly what's going to happen.
That brings me to one of my questions that I had planned out. So let's say, especially for me, let's call it a question coming straight from me. I am not so deep into the Web3 world as much as I am in AI. And let's say, and I was asking this question to Sai earlier, that if I were to start investing, I have invested a little bit before, but then I've been out of touch. Now, if I want to start investing again, right? As a personal judgment, would you have a recommendation? Should I wait and watch for a while, or now is the best time?
If you're a trader, then wait and watch for a while and wait for dips or whatever else. If you're an investor, and by that I mean someone that's going to be here for the next 2-3 years plus, put your money into a couple of coins, diversify over 10 coins.
Okay.
I would look at coins like Bitcoin because it's the big store of value. Ethereum because it's been really badly hit by the market and it's an ETF. Solana because it's probably the most used layer 1 blockchain out of all the layer 1 blockchains. I'd go into things like Thorchain, which is a cross-chain protocol. I'd pick top 10 coins. I would buy the coins, I would hold the coins, and I'd get back to my normal line of business. I think there's a big difference between crypto investing and AI. You mentioned AI, but any other kind of investing. With crypto, investing and is also using the technology. So like when you buy Bitcoin and you send Bitcoin and you move it from an exchange to a wallet, you're using the technology, right? And you need to know how to use the technology because soon I think that all money and all digital transactions are going to be done in some kind of crypto thing. Yeah, so I think to be honest, if you're an investor, then just invest in a top 10 coins. If you have a little bit more time and you want to get a bit more into it, just start using crypto. Doesn't matter like what, just start using crypto. Start trading meme coins, set yourself up with a wallet, maybe start using some of the AI applications that cross over into crypto, just so you become familiar with the technology. It's the same as learning to build websites in the 1990s. If you knew how to build a website in the 1990s, you were a legend. If you knew how to do drop shipping in the beginning of drop shipping, you were a legend. If you knew how to use social media at the beginning of social media, you were a legend. You had an unfair advantage. I think it's the same thing with crypto. You can choose to be scared of it or intimidated by it, or you could choose to take a small amount of your income and just start using it. Start learning the pitfalls of it. Start learning the advantages of it. And then that will stimulate your creative juices and teach you you'll realize new applications for your business, etc.
Ran, you have covered a lot of shows about Web3 and AI, both very powerful technologies for sure. How are they related to each other?
Well, I mean, let's just think about what AI actually is. AI is a world where effectively a whole lot of agents are dealing with a whole lot of agents, right?
Yeah.
And conduct a whole lot of transactions. How are they going to pay for transactions? Just, I mean, you tell me what is one AI agent going to ask the other AI agent for a credit card and a credit card number? And is that how it's going to work? Or is there going to be some kind of digital money that these AI agents start to move between each other? I suspect that I'm right, and that the latter is that when these digital agents are all dealing with each other. Let me give you a very simple example, right? Let's say we're both driving AI-driven self-driving cars, okay? And I need to get to the airport and you need to get to work, and we're both driving behind each other, right? Explain to me how your car is going to know to move out of the way for my car because I'm in a hurry. I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Is there going to be a marketplace for rite of passage?
There's going to be a marketplace for rite of passage. My car is going to go behind your car, and it's going to say, I have 6 minutes to get to destination B, and I'm willing to pay X. And you're saying, I have 7 minutes, and I'm happy to take the money. And the AI agents are going to negotiate, and your car is going to move out the way, and my car is going to get the right of way, right? And then there's going to need to be a value transfer. What is that value transfer going to be? It's going to be some kind of digital currency that's going to move from point A to point B. AI doesn't work without crypto, because how do you trade the value, right? How do you trade the value? Unless you want to go through the banking system, which has a 3-day clearance and 5% goes to Visa. And no, just get out the way and let me transfer your money immediately and let's forget about it, right? Number one. Number two, what is AI? AI is effectively data. The more data you have about a person, about a collective, the more refined the AI model becomes, the better the AI. Right now at this stage, you and I are the data. What we do is the data. But we don't see any reward for the data that we provide. So you drive around all day long with your mobile phone. You're leaving data of your lifestyle everywhere you go, where you spend, how much you spend. You don't get 1 cent reward for doing that. With crypto, people can reward you. Right now, the powers that be are monitoring my phone, and they know how much time, effort, how much time I spend and my routine every single day. And they use that data for some kind of AI something. But I'm not getting paid. And in the real world, I should be rewarded for giving my data, right, to the greater AI. And how can you reward me if you don't know me? And I'm not going to open an account. So what you do is you reward me with crypto. So I think that to be honest, I think at terminal point, there is no AI without some kind of digital money transfer, digital value transfer. And the most logical digital value transfer that I know of today is crypto. Now, I mean, could you do it manually? Yes, you could do it manually, but that's like, you know what that's like? It's like when you conduct a transaction today over the internet, right? So, you buy an outfit and you think you're buying it over the internet where you put your credit card in, but you're not. You're sending your credit card over the internet, but then they're processing the transaction offline. And then they're sending you the garment, through the web. It's an antiquated system which you don't need anymore. When I can just send you the asset and then you hold the asset and I don't hold it anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Ran, how do you see this? We are in a fiat world and we are getting into a digital world. How do you see that the fiat world is being taken over by the digital world?
And how does the transition look like? Especially now we can say more confidently given that ETFs are a thing.
Slowly, and then very quickly. Because, I've been in Bitcoin, as I say, since 2014, and it's always been so slow and so painful. But then when you zoom out and you say, wow, we've got over 200 million people already using this technology. And we've got an ETF now. And, merchants around the world are really starting to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. And, the thing is that it starts to accelerate. The more people that accept Bitcoin, the more people that use Bitcoin, therefore the more people that accept Bitcoin, therefore the more people that use Bitcoin. And so I think that we're in this virtuous cycle. I think it's happening in front of our eyes. And it's just a case of just, letting it just do its thing, because people, I'll give you a very good example. So when text came out, my grandmother and everybody loved text, right? We all love text. And then when WhatsApp came out, lots of people said, well, I've got text. Well, why do I need WhatsApp? I don't need WhatsApp. I've got text. I always call my 93-year-old grandmother, I think she's the epitome of all of this, where she's like, I don't need WhatsApp. I don't need WhatsApp. I don't need WhatsApp. Until she started using WhatsApp. And then she's like, oh my God, you can stream a video and I can see the kids. Wow, that's amazing. And that's exactly what it is. When people just slowly, until eventually everybody's using it and it becomes the new norm. And that's where I think we are in the adoption cycle of crypto. We're in the slowly part. We're still in the early days. We're in the slowly part. But soon it's going to make an amazing thing. I'll give you an example of something that I saw a while ago. I've been to Rwanda. I don't know if you've ever been to Rwanda, but Rwanda is very rural. It's called the land of 1,000 hills. It's full of farmers who farm tea, etc., etc., etc. And insurance companies want to insure tea. But in order to do that, they need to get details about soil, weather, temperatures, etc., from Rwanda, right? How do they reward the people in Rwanda? They're not going to reward them via bank account. These people don't have bank accounts. But if they have a mobile phone and they just input one bit of data, they reward them with a token. Okay, now look, that's a much better world than the world that we currently live in, right? And it's just a matter of time before people start adopting that shit. So, like with every technology, there's always going to be resistance. Keep up the good fight, keep doing good work, keep adding value, and the rest will come.
Coming on to this point, I'll tell you, I just wanted to tell the audience here, because I was in Capetown in your office and you had a team meeting and then you were very far from where I was sitting. I was sitting on the couch at a very corner and I was working on my laptop and I heard you saying this, our mission is to change lives.
Yes.
And that got printed into my mind very well. And I keep saying this to everyone. So, yeah.
I think Sai's, just on this note, Sai's been an absolute optimist on this, and he keeps mentioning the two names that I've heard most is one is you, and the other is Raul Paul, and probably a bit of Anthony Scaramucci. I'm like, he's talking about all the things that you guys have said at one point of time, and he's like, these are not my thoughts. He's learned from all the things that you guys have shared across. So thank you so much for it. I think he's been helping me getting enlightened a bit more on the Web3 world.
I think before we go, I'll just tell you what Sai's alluding to is I was successful before crypto. I sold my marketing business for lots of money, $150 million. That was before I got into crypto. And then I got into crypto and I invested a lot of that money into Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized that money isn't going to make me happy because I have enough money. I'm not as rich as some of the richest people in the world, and especially some of the richest people in India, who I've just noticed had some big weddings. I'm not as rich as those people, but I came to a point where money wasn't going to make my life very different, right? And so what I realized did make my life different was changing people's lives. And, it started off with changing the people's lives around me, which is the staff that I work with. I think I say it at every manager meeting. Honestly, if Banter hasn't changed your life, leave, because it's not the place for you. Because I believe that if I can impact, the reason why I do this is because I want to make mass impact on a mass scale. I want to make people rich on a mass scale globally. And so I spend my whole day learning everything that I can about crypto, acting on what I learned and telling people exactly what I learned and how I acted. And the reason why I do that is because I have a mission to change as many people's lives as possible. Now, I can't change people's lives by doing brain surgery because I'm not a doctor. I can't change people's lives by medicine because I'm not a doctor. But what I can change people's lives is I can take them out of financial poverty and give them financial freedom. Now, people will say, hold on a second, but that's not as amazing as curing cancer. I think it's pretty much the same thing. I'll tell you why. When people are poor, and I've been to India, and let me tell you, I've seen that for me is real poverty. And I'm a dad. I have kids. I have a wife. I have kids, and I know the pressure that I have to supply and give my kids food, education, the best life that they can have. And I'm financially free. And then I see people that worry about how they are going to eat, how their kids are going to eat, where they're going to sleep, and what the shelter is going to be above their head. Now, that's not a life. That's not a life. That's prison. When you go to prison, your food is free, your accommodation is free, and your electricity is free. When you're in the real world and you're not financially free, those things become stresses.
Yeah.
Now, to me, if you're not financially free, you're not living your life. You're wasting your life. You're not living your life. If you're not financially free, your whole day you spend thinking, what am I going to eat? What are my kids going to eat? And that's probably the worst. That's for me is a worst place. Rather put me in prison. At least then I know what I'm going to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, I think by giving people financial freedom, it's you're giving them a ticket to actually enjoy the one life that they have in this world. And that's why, Sai will tell you that for me, I love the money because money is a scoreboard, but I don't do this for the money. I do this to see if I can make mass impact on a global scale. And Sai will tell you, when I walk around at conferences, when I walk around in the street, people will come and give me a hug and say, you changed my life. You made me rich. I paid off my student debt. I managed to buy a house. I'm more financially free. And I do that on a mass scale. Even when in India, when I walk around, people recognize me and they come and they hug me and they say, you changed my life. And that's why I do what I do. Is I don't we make money. And to be honest, I really care about crypto, but that's not why I do this. I do this because I want to change as many people's lives as possible. My superpower is that I can make people rich, or I can make people richer than they are. And that's why I do what I do. And everything that we do at Banter, Sai will tell you, because we adopted him like family. He lived with us for a while. He knows that everything at Banter is actually done not with numbers and spreadsheets, but it's with a mission. And the mission is, can we build the most profitable community in the world? And through that, can we change as many lives as possible? And that's how we operate.
And I've seen you have built a very strong community across the globe. I met so many people from the Front Runners group, and I've met so many people who truly, when they saw your picture and with me and then here and there, and they said, oh my God, we just wanted to meet him and then get us connected to him if it's possible. So, of course, you have changed a lot of lives. And it's not only through your mission, but I have seen that you have crypto schools free of cost, trading schools free of cost, so much of alpha every single day, probably 4 to 5, 6 videos every single day, and then Twitter spaces, whatnot. It's like crazy, massive.
Anything that can change people's lives and make people richer, we will do. Simple.
Amazing.
If we have, if I would like to check in if we have another 5 to 7 minutes. In that case, I would like to ask a couple of short questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so these are going to be a bit more pop, Ran.
NFTs have seen a crazy hype. Do they still have promise?
Yes, very much so. But I think that, with every technology, you get a V1 and a V2, and V1 fails and V2 actually succeeds.
Would you call the V1 as a disaster?
Most technologies, V1 is a disaster. And then V2 is the iteration. There's nothing new about that. V1 is an experiment, and V2 is when we take all the learnings from the experiment and create something real with it. I think to the people who landed up buying pictures of apes and spending millions of dollars on them, well,
So are you saying you've never held a bored ape?
Never.
Okay, wonderful.
I always thought the people that held them were absolutely crazy.
Perfect. Okay.
So, Ran, my feed is full of memes on crypto bros. What message would you like to give them?
Especially the ones who are right now flipping burgers.
I think that just keep up the good fight and just try and stay in for as long as possible. And I think that this is the best opportunity for you to change your life. There really is. It's the best opportunity for you to change your life.
Got it. So I think the message is a bit more serious here, where you're like, don't exit so early, right? It's HODL. HODL is the message.
Don't be swayed by short-term forces in the market. We're in this for the long term. We're changing the world. If you've been here since 2014 and you've noticed the amount of change, we have a presidential candidate. We have all the presidential candidates running on a Bitcoin platform. The world's changed. We've made a huge impact.
Wonderful. And then finally, there has been a massive experiment. We call it the big Web3 experiment, you can say it, in El Salvador, right? For example. And I'm sure it's been done in some small parts here and there. Which one of these do you think is compelling, and are you most excited for in the future?
I think El Salvador was just a very small proof of concept. And I think that's good. It's good for, if you want to make big changes as a retailer, you don't make them in your big retail stores. You take a small store in a small neighborhood and you make the changes in the small store in the small neighborhood, and you let them learn all the different lessons. And then you take all the learnings and then you apply them into one of the biggest stores and one of the biggest stores until eventually you do a global rollout. I think El Salvador was a test case. I think lots to learn. I can't say that it's fully a success because, until the people in El Salvador use Bitcoin. But I think it's an experiment. And I think that the experiment continues. And unless we experiment, we don't learn.
Yeah, the one thing that has become clear is the global remittance has definitely picked up as a use case.
Sure.
Any other use case that you think you're very happy has been proven to be successful apart from international settlements and global remittances so far, not in the future?
The ability to raise capital globally from a global market within a couple of seconds. The ability to create value and trade value. Meme coins. You create value and you can create up to $1 billion worth of value in 10 seconds and you can trade it globally. Who would have thought? Out of a meme. That's a use case. I mean, you may not agree with it, but it's a use case.
It's something to trade upon. Who would you call is the beneficiary apart from someone who wants to trade for a meme coin?
Well, it's a game. It's a game. Who are the beneficiary? The players of the game. When you win, you're a beneficiary. When you lose, you're the loser. You know what I mean? So it's a game. As long as you understand that it's a game and it's not an investment, and it's like
fair enough.
It's like a game of musical chairs. Can you get a chair before everybody else? And can you get up before everybody else gets up? It's a game. It's the biggest global casino game in the world. That's what it is.
I like the fact that you phrased it as a game, and especially you made it as explicit as a casino, because meme coins especially, you wouldn't call them a long-term asset, but it's a wonderful game to play in that sense, right?
Exactly. It's a fun game to play. If people think that it's an investment, you don't know the rules of the game and you're going to get caught out. But if you come in and you know it's a game and meme coins have only been good because the markets have been moving sideways. And while the markets are moving sideways, people get bored. They want to play a game.
Wonderful. So I think this was the last question.
Thank you very much, Ran. Ran, I'm wearing a lithium t-shirt.
I see that. I saw that. Cool, guys.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate
Right,
this, Ran.
Thank you.
Bye. If you want to stay on top of the latest AI news and tools, make sure to subscribe me now and press the bell icon.